Cube maps and light probes are one of those Garry's Mod things you always hear referred to in kind of evil terms. When you look them up, you'll find evil and nasty guides with lots of intimidating imagery and phrases. Thankfully, aside from all that, it's a fairly straightforward process, and in my personal experience is typically worth it. Now this whole thing takes some technical knowledge with Source, so if you don't know how to make custom textures or work with the soft lamps kind of tools, you're going to have to take a step back and learn that stuff. It's not so bad. Now for this I'm going to focus mainly on the very basics of making a cube map and doing light probes. If you've seen the crazy stuff that Paz makes and you're wondering how to make it, so is everyone else. Truth be told, the only person who understands how Paz works is Paz, so, oh well. But with that said, I'm going to jump right into it. I'll start by defining some important terminology here. Specular reflections, or cube maps, are the method Source uses to have mirror-like reflective surfaces somewhat accurately reflect their surroundings. This is distinct from Phong shading, which makes materials shiny. Where Source art is concerned, this means surfaces like car exteriors, windows, glass, and some metal. Not every surface needs specular reflections, even if the Phong shading makes them shiny. Just think of what you see in real life and base your reflections off of that. Initially, one of the more important things is that you need to have a 360-degree scene build around the camera. This sounds scary, and it kind of is, but it's simpler than you might think. As you can see, it can be pretty straightforward. Generally, just as long as it obscures the horizon of GM Black, it'll do the trick. Nobody should be scrutinizing the cube map layers in the final image too hard, and if they are, kill them. Just try to fill out the area around the camera in a reasonably convincing way. One trick I like to use while still making the scene is to do quick and dirty light probe tests by throwing up a sky dome, leaving on full bright, and doing a light probe. This will show you what areas you need to focus on based on what is being reflected in the scene. I'll get into the specifics of doing this in a moment, as it's not exactly relevant now, but I felt like I'd bring it up. Once the scene is complete, you're ready to make the cube map. You want to try and fake the lighting for the light probe. What I do is use the same sun lamp that I used in the scene itself, and then fake the ambience using a bunch of projected lights with the shadows turned off. It can be messy, the finer details aren't really noticeable in the render. Once you've done this, spawn in a sky dome and find a sky that reasonably matches the one you're using. As someone who uses real pictures for skies, this is kind of unfortunate because there usually aren't any that are one-to-one, but again, the finer details won't really be noticeable in the render, so it's not too bad. I recommend saving at this point just in case you need to come back and change something later. Once everything is in position, it's time to do the light probe. Make sure you're in the camera first. Open the console and type light probe X512. Replace the X with whatever you see fit, since that's the name. I call all of mine test for no real reason, so replace it, and once it's good, hit enter. Don't get sloppy when you enter this in, because your game will crash if you do it wrong. I know this from experience, it sucks, but that's why you save. Keeping the name the same for every light probe is ideal, since you don't have to reuse these, and by replacing them every time, you won't have to change VMT lines to match every time too. You're nearly done at this point. In fact, that was mostly the hard stuff. What you need to do next is find the VMTs of the materials you want to use your new light probe. Open the VMTs and change the env-map line to match. As you can see, mine is lightprobes/test. A little hack here is to use a set of shared textures for stuff like car metal, because you can submat these new materials on specifically for the cube map render with no trouble. You'll see that demonstrated in a moment. Now, this is an alternate method, it's probably a better one too, that has just come to my attention. What you can do is go through that same process of creating the cube map, but instead of going through and changing the env-map lines to match in every VMT, you can replace the default cube map used by GMOD as a whole. Go into your Garry's Mod materials folder and look for a folder named Engine. If it doesn't exist, make one and open it up. Take your cube map, name it Default Cube Map, and put it in. This should replace the default one used by Source. Once you've done that, now's the time to turn on the cube maps. Go into the console and type Matte Specular 1, hit enter, and now, here's the most exciting part, wait for a while. Without any accountability, Silicon Valley has single-handedly destroyed our ability to focus. So you probably already have a YouTube video going on in the back. Go watch that for a bit, talk to somebody, go outside, whatever. I'm not the police, I can't stop you. Once you come back after a while, you'll see that cube maps are now showing up. Now get to work configuring everything as you see fit. Like I said earlier, you can submat shared materials onto other models. This is what I like to do for vehicles, so that everything has the properties that you want. Once you've got all that ready, save again, just in case you need to come back to this version of the scene too, since it won't look good in normal renders. Open the console, do your preferred poster command, and you're good. Now you're just about done. You can mask out the stuff you don't want in post, change the opacity of the layer, maybe its colors, and so on. Go crazy. Now's your chance to be a big shot. The effect can be subtle, but for how good it looks, I think it's completely worth it, even though it is also a total pain in the ass.